Hey guys, so I had a request to show you how to make the cardstock cutouts for the pocket molds. So I was too lazy to get a pocket Freshie, but we'll have made one by the end of this. But here is an example of what it is. So the black part is the Freshie. This mold is from Wax and Crafts or K&L. And I really like theirs because all the lines stick out. And so that makes it really easy to go over and paint. All the other pocket molds I've seen have lines that are indented, which then you had to go in with puffy paint, which isn't really my favorite. But these ones I was able to do with the Sharpie paint pens. So this is what we're going to be doing today, is making these cutouts here. So you'll need a couple different things. The first thing that you'll need is a I'm just thinking. You'll need a SVG, so that's just a cut file. And I used this one on Etsy, and I'll put the link in the post and in the comments. But this one's just from Nota Ben. It's $1.50. Definitely worth just buying this. The next thing that you'll need is you'll need to decide what you want to actually put on your pockets. So you have a couple different options. You can just search digital paper on Etsy, and that's going to give you tons of different ideas. So you could make a pocket that has like these flowers on it. You could make a pocket that has these Western Highland cows. So really the options are endless once you know how to do it. You can also put an image on it. So one of my image places that I like to buy from is called Glitter Moonshine. And so you can choose any kind of image you'd like. So you could go on Etsy and look up PNGs. Any of these could be slapped onto a pocket. Like I said, really, endless options here. Here, another one that's really popular for the pockets is cowboy butts. There's lots of these on Etsy. So any of these could be put on your pockets as well. Okay, so here I have my Cricut canvas. I already went ahead. This is in Design Space, Cricut Design Space. I went in and put the square in there just so that I don't forget what size I need. So for the K&L pocket mold, or for the Midwest small pocket mold, I found that I like 2.5 by 2.5 the best. I don't know any of the measurements for the bigger pockets, but you can just measure the inside and play around with it and kind of figure out what you want. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to need to get the outline for the pocket, and that's going to tell it what we want to cut. So I'm just going to go to Browse. Here in my downloads, I have the pocket file, and I'm going to just insert the SVG. So I'll say Open. I'll just name it as Pocket SVG, and then we're just going to say Upload. So that's going to save it into my Cricut stuff. And then I'm going to add it to my canvas. Okay, now the trick with this is that we want to get rid of those seams, because I don't want those seams on my project, because the pocket mold itself already has seams. And if you remember the picture, let's see where my picture went. If you remember the picture, this paper is actually going to be above the lines. So it really doesn't make sense to have double lines. So I need to get rid of those first. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Contour. And what that's going to do is it's going to let me turn on and off the different parts that I'm cutting. So once it loads, I'm going to go through and I'm going to take out all of the cuts that aren't the pocket. Okay. Yep, so see all of these little dashes? That's what we want to get rid of. I think we can just say hide all. Yep, okay. So now let me zoom out. I'm not sure why it zoomed in so much. Okay. Now I'm just going to say close. That should work. I'm not sure why this is being so weird. You gotta love Cricut. Anyone who owns a Cricut understands the struggle that happens sometimes. Okay, so let's see if that works. There we go, boom. So I can tell that those are gone because the black lines all disappeared. And now I'm only left with the outline. So yeah, I'm not sure why that always looks so stupid. I love my Cricut and I hate it sometimes, but that's okay. One thing I am wondering about is if it's going to cut a really thick line, and I don't want it to do that. I just want one cut. So, let's see. Let's try that. Yep, okay, that's what we need. So now what it's going to do, I can tell it it's just going to cut this whole thing out because it shaded the whole inside. So now what it was going to do before was make 2 cuts. So then you would end up with like a weird outline. Now this just creates one solid piece. Now the next step is I'm going to size it to be that 2.5 by 2.5. So we can do that just by coming up here. 2.5, and then it's going to be 2.5 by 2.4. That's okay. That's actually what I used in the picture. So now that I don't need that anymore, I'm going to delete it. Now this is what we're going to use as our template on all of these different pocket designs that we do. So no matter what, you always want to keep one of these handy because that's what we're going to use to slice all of our images. So I'm just going to make a copy just in case because sometimes when you slice things, they get kind of messed up or they disappear. Okay, so there we go. Now we'll have lots of different ones. So now the next thing is you get to decide what patterns you want. So to start, I'm going to choose one of those endless backgrounds that I showed earlier. So we're just going to upload it into Design Space. So I like to go, let's see, the endless backgrounds are just in downloads, and then I'm going to choose one of these. So here's some of the options of what I downloaded. I thought it would be fun to do some St. Patrick's Day ones. So let's do, I think I'm going to do this one. So I'm going to choose the one that I want. Let's see. Let's do this. Oh, that one's kind of busy. Okay, well, I'm going to just pick this one for now. So, and then we'll open it. Now this one, you always want to say complex because if you look at what happens when I say simple, it's going to cut your quality down really low. Sorry, my computer is really slow sometimes. But what it does is it changes the colors to be just like simple colors, and then it looks really bad. So you always want to go with complex. Let's see. Oh, and that time it looks like it didn't do it, but sometimes it will. So just to be safe, I always go with complex, and then you'll say continue. This, you don't need to remove anything because we want all of it to be there. So I'm just going to say apply and continue. And then it's going to think for a second. So now this part's really important. If you just save it as a cut image, then you're just going to save it as this gray square, which is not what we want. We want a print then cut. So that's going to tell your Cricut, oh, I want to print this out, and then I want you to cut it. So we're going to do print and then cut, and then we're going to say upload. So here are my shamrock designs. And then of course it's going to think. That happens a lot with Cricut. And my older computer, it's kind of slow. So then, once it's done, the next step is going to be cutting it to be the size of that pocket that we did earlier. So I'm going to click on the image that I want. I'm going to say add to canvas. And then it's going to think again. And then it will put it in for me. Okay, so it's going to put it in really big. If you want your design to just be really, really big and not repeat a lot, then you can keep it big like this. I'm going to make it smaller just because I don't want my shamrocks to be that huge. So I'm going to maybe make it 15 because I want them to be big but not that big. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the pocket that we chose earlier and we're going to set it on top. And as you can see, these shamrocks are going to be pretty big. So I might make it just a tiny bit smaller. And you can change the size up here or down here. It doesn't really matter. Okay, I think I like that. So I'm just going to set it over wherever I want. It doesn't matter. You can throw it in the middle. You can throw it up here. The square will kind of show you where the pattern's going to be. So maybe I'll put it there. And then your next step is you're going to click and drag over both of them. So what that does is it selects this green picture of our shamrocks, and it will select this pocket SVG. So that means that right now they're both together. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go down and we're going to tell it to slice. So what that does is it just slices a piece out of this design. It's not going to look like anything changed, but once I give it a chance to think and it does that little flashing thing, and then it'll come back, now what'll happen is I can move this piece and it literally cut out a chunk. So we don't need this piece anymore. I'm just going to delete it. So now what's left is our original black pocket piece and then our newly designed one. So this, now we could go ahead and we could print and cut. So there's one design that we could do. Now we probably don't need all of these, so I'll get rid of that one at least. Now I'll show you how to do another design. Let's say that we also wanted to do Let's do the buffalo plaid, maybe that's what it's called, this check pattern. So we can hit open. Again, you're going to say it's complex, and then you're going to say continue. We're just going to say apply. We don't want to change anything because we just want it like this. And then it's going to think, and then remember we save it as print then cut. And then I'm going to save this as St. Patrick's Day green plaid. That way I can hopefully find it if I ever need it again. And then we'll just say upload. And then it's going to think. Now this one I think will look better if it's bigger. So I'm going to keep it big when I do the slicing. So we'll click on it and we'll just say add to canvas. And then again, it's going to take a long time to think. Okay, and actually I don't love it that big, so I am going to make it a little smaller. So again, you can resize it up here. Let's try 15. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to move this pocket out of the way. You can also hide it if you just want it to disappear for a second. And then again, we pull our pocket over, we click and drag so that it selects all of them. You could also hit, let me see where my pocket went. Oh, now they're both selected. So let's see. If you click out, it'll unselect them. So if you select the wrong things, you just want to click somewhere else. Another way to select both is by hitting Shift, because I'm on a Mac. So you can set that one on top, hit Shift, and then click as well. And then see over here, it tells you what's selected. So those are both selected. So two options, click and drag, or hold Shift and click on all the ones you want. And then again, we're just going to slice. It'll take a second, it'll think, it'll flash in and out, and then we know that it's ready. Okay, and now here, it didn't do all the extra stuff, but I can see a tiny little cut line here, which lets me know it's done. So I can move this, I'm done with that piece, so I can delete it, and then ta-da! Now we have another green and check pocket. And then I can bring back my other one by just hitting the view. So there are two St. Patrick's Day pocket options. Now, you might want to put just a picture on it. So I'm going to go to upload. I'm going to go to upload image, and these are already downloaded in advance. They're from Design Bundles. So I'm just going to go to downloads, and then I looked for butt images. So I found this one that says I need a margarita the size of my butt, which I thought was kind of fitting. So we're just going to say complex again, just continue. It's already got a clear background, so we don't have to worry about that. We're going to say print then cut, and then we'll upload it. Okay, and so now we're going to select it, and we're going to add it to our canvas. So now you can do this with any picture, remember? So if you just found like a random picture off the internet, you could use it. So this, we are going to use the pocket kind of as a background. Now this can be kind of misleading. I'm going to change the color of the pocket because it's not actually black. It's going to be whatever color your paper is, which is white. So I'm going to make it white just so that we can see. And then the black outline is where it's going to cut out. So let's say I want it to just be really big in my pocket. So I can just set it on my pocket. I want to make sure it's center. So again, I do click and drag to select both of those. And then I'm going to go to align, and then I'm going to tell it to align center horizontally. And then that moved it just a tiny bit. To me though, that kind of looks a little off center. So if you need to eyeball it, that's okay. I'm going to scoot it just a tiny bit over so that it's not quite there. Yeah, sometimes you'll find images are hard to make look exactly center. So I'm just going to split the difference. Now the key with this one here, with these kind, it's easy because as soon as you slice it, this is just telling it to cut around the edge and you're already done. But with this, if I leave this as it is, it's going to take these words and it's going to cut out every single letter on those words, which is not what we want, unless you want to spend forever trying to get it onto your pocket. So the last thing we need to do in order to have this be ready to print and cut is we just need to attach them and flatten. So I'm going to highlight them both. I can tell that they're both selected. Then we go to attach. And then the last step is to go to flatten. So what flatten does is it tells the cutter to only cut around the edge and not cut anything in the middle. So now we have this lovely margarita one. And then I did find one more image that I thought would be fun, so I'll show you that one too. If you already get this, you can just skip ahead in the video, that's fine. Sometimes I know for me it helps to see a couple different examples. So here's a personality. Again, I looked for but once. So this one says, luckily for you, my personality is as great as my butt. So I thought that was very fitting. So we'll just say it's complex. And then we'll just say apply and continue. And these you could always put on top of a background if you wanted to. We could see how it looks on top of those green pockets. I don't love super busy things, so I think I'll probably leave it as is. But you could always add maybe like a simple colored background. Anything like that would probably look good. So I just added it into our project. Just for fun, I'll see what it looks like on top of those pockets that we made earlier. So I just sized it down to 2 inches. But see, I don't love that. This one would be probably okay, but it's pretty busy. So I'm just going to leave it on a white background like this one. So we're going to pull our example over. Again, I'm just going to change it to be white so it's easier to visualize what it'll look like. Then we'll just set this on. It's a little too big, so I'll just size it to make it smaller. And then I'll put it about where I want it height-wise. And then again, we can select them both. Go to align and say center. That looks pretty good. And so then don't forget, this part's really important. You could attach and then flatten. So then that's going to give us another pocket. Now these pockets, at least with the Cricut, you can fit 6 on a page. So I'm just going to copy and paste so that I have 2 of some of these, so that more can fit and I'm not just wasting paper. So then once this part's all ready, I like to save it because otherwise sometimes your Cricut will lose it. So I'm just going to say St. Patrick's Day Pocket Designs. So hit save. Okay, so now that these are all ready to go and we've saved our project, now we're ready to hit make it. Now, if you had any other black pockets and stuff, you want to make sure you hit that little eye to hide them because otherwise it's going to try to put them in your project and we don't need them in our project right now. So I'm going to check the preview and make sure that it looks good. Again, if you had any of those pockets, then it would show up down here as just like a cut file. But right now I'm not seeing any, so this one looks good. So we can hit continue. And then this is going to show us our Cricut page. Up here it's connecting to my Cricut. I'm just going to say send to printer. Oh yeah, it looks like it's having a little bit of a hard time. Let's see if it'll connect. Okay, so I'm going to say send to printer. And then you're just going to print it like normal. I already printed it out in an earlier step, so I'm going to hit close out, but you know how to print to your printer. This, I like to use the heavy cardstock setting, so I'm going to click heavy cardstock. And then I'm just going to make sure that these look right. You just use a fine point blade. So now I'm going to switch over to my camera and I'll show you the rest of the steps. But just know that this is what's going on your computer and this is what your computer screen should look like. But after this point, I'm not going to show my screen anymore. Okay, so my computer just printed it out. I highly recommend this printer. It's seriously amazing. It's an Epson EcoTank, and here you can see the ink levels, which is really nice, and you just fill it from right up here. Oh, well, I don't remember how to actually do it. Anyways, you fill it up. It's super easy. The ink's really cheap, and so I would highly recommend investing in one of these, especially if you're going to make a lot of cardstock. I'll put a link so that you can get to it really easily. But here's our cardstock. So again, if you're familiar with Cricut, you probably don't need these steps, but I'll show you anyway. So we're just picking a corner of the mat. We're going to make sure it's down nice and tight. Now, as I showed you earlier, my computer's already set up, ready to go. So I just need to load it into my Cricut. So we're just going to line it up. We're going to hit the load button. And then as soon as the C starts flashing, that means that it's ready to go. And then it's going to start cutting out our pockets. Okay, so now this is done cutting. You can tell because the unload button's flashing. And then if you look, these all look cut out. So I'm just going to hit unload. And then I'm going to go over to the table and I'm going to pull these off. Okay, so now that this is all cut out, you just need to pull it off your mat. So this part, obviously, you just throw away. And then now you have 6 new pockets that you can use. Sorry, I'll put it this way. 6 new pockets that you can use. So we just pop them off. like so. And then I'm just gonna make one of them today because I don't need 6 St. Patrick's Day pockets. I think the margarita one will be a really popular one, so I'm gonna start with that. So I'll just push those out of the way. Now I'm gonna make a pina colada freshie. I'm gonna make a green one. Oh, let me center that. Okay, I'm gonna make a green pina colada freshie. There we go. I just have some random green glitter that I got. So what I like to do with these is I like to put in the cardstock first, and you want to make sure it's face down so that it's facing out when you have your Freshie. And you also want to make sure that you leave enough of a space so that you can drill a hole without touching your cardstock. So I set it down in, then I'm just going to shake some glitter over the top. And I don't love tons of glitter, so I'm just going to do about that much. Ends up being quite a bit, but it'll look cool. This is kind of like a gold to green glitter. That's kind of fun. And then we're going to fill up the mold about halfway. And then I like to hold down the cardstock so that it doesn't move. Again, this mold is from K&L. I'll link the mold in the comments. It's one of my favorite pocket ones that I found because I can just paint it using paint pens and I don't have to use puffy paint. And I really don't love puffy paint just because it takes so long to dry, which is why paint pens are nice. So once that is all flattened out, then we're ready to go put it in the oven. Okay, so now we're over to my oven. Again, it's just a regular electric oven. I bake everything on 325, so I'm just gonna set it in. With molds, I like to do 15 minutes first, and then I like to rotate my pan so that, then I like to rotate my pan so that it doesn't boil or overcook one side of the Freshie. So I'll come back in 15 minutes and I'll rotate it. Okay, it's been 15 minutes, so now, like I said, I just rotate my pan because that helps the back from getting overcooked, especially if you have a bunch of Freshies on the same pan. And then don't forget to set a timer. I'm gonna set it for, we'll add 4 more minutes and then I'll come and I'll look at it. Okay, so it's been 5 minutes, 4 minutes. I think I set it for 4. And it looks pretty good. Silicone molds, you end up cooking more than cookie cutters. They end up being not overcooked per se, but overcooked. It's what a lot of people probably won't tell you. But that's how you get all the details to look good on the other side. Plus, it really doesn't impact the scent as long as you're not like completely melting them and cooking them for like 30 or 40 minutes. So I haven't seen a big difference. But yeah, just keep that in mind that these will look more melted than your cookie cutters will, but you still want to be able to see the beads. I also look at the corners, and here you can tell that they've started to melt together, so my details are likely going to be pretty solid. So now the next thing you do is you just let them cool off. These are different than cookie cutters because you don't want to pull them out of the mold until they're completely cool. So I'll leave this for 20 or 30 minutes. Okay, so now this is cooled off. I have this, and then to decorate I have just some brads from Walmart. And then I also brought a couple color of paint pens because I wasn't sure what color I want to do for the seams. So we'll just pull it out. Oh, that one's fun. This one looks really cool so far. Okay, so I think I'm going to go with yellow for the seams. This one, so the longer you cook your molds, the smoother that they'll be, but you don't want to completely nuke them, right? So these are still a little bumpy. Probably could have cooked a little bit longer, but it's not worth trying to cook it again to get it flatter. So like I said earlier, the reason why I like K&L's mold is because these seams stick out, which means that you can just go through and you can just paint right on the seams. I really like that because I hate puffy paint. I hate waiting for it to dry. I feel like it always makes it so I have to wait longer to ship out orders, but that's just me. You could also puffy paint on the top. There is a little spot right here. There's 2 dots at the top. I'm going to leave those and glue on my brads there. And then you could leave it like this. I think I'm going to leave it like this, but there is also an outline that you could outline around the edge if you wanted to. I'm going to leave it though. Okay, so now that's done. So then the last thing to do is to get our brads. So like I said, these are just from Walmart. They have the split apart backs. I use tin snips to cut these. You could use your regular scissors, but I think they would dull your scissors pretty fast. So you just cut as close as you can to cut off those ends. Let's Okay, and that one I actually bent pretty crazy, so I'm gonna stop the video and I'm gonna go grab a different one. Okay, I brought the whole container this time. It's just a container of brads. I've never had one bend like that. That was kind of crazy, but you're just snipping off most of the extra. See, there we go, so that it can sit on your mold. And these are just gonna go at the top, just like your brads on jeans would go. And sorry if I'm not centered. Hopefully you can see everything. So again, we'll just snip it off. Okay, and then you'll need your hot glue gun too. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue at the top, kind of off to the side of that last bump. And then you're just going to take your brad and you're going to stick it in the hot glue. Now obviously be careful, hot glue hurts. You can even squish it down and it should push into your mold a little bit, the rest of the metal back. Okay, so there's one done. It just adds a nice little bling to it. And so then you'll just do the same on the other side. So we'll just hot glue. That was probably a little too much hot glue, but that's okay. Gotta love cheap hot glue guns. I let it cool off just a tiny bit because I don't want to burn my fingers. And then again, you can just squish it down in. And then just like that, you have a nice, cute St. Patrick's Day pocket mold. This technique, like I said earlier, can literally be used on any design that you could possibly think of. So enjoy.